back like we never left. We got the band back together again. We got Drew, the Disney dude, and the Italiano. Today we're talking all about the Haunted Mansion, the changes over there. We're talking about ground or dirt moving in Florida and out here in California with the Avengers. A lot of news dropped today for Walt Disney World, new nighttime parade. We're going to talk about, we're going to break it down. Up next, we got Drew, the Disney dude. Welcome aboard, everybody. Welcome to another episode of OG55. We are talking Walt Disney World. We are talking Disneyland Resort. We got Drew, the Disney dude, back in the house. Drew, it is always good to see you, sir. How you doing?
It has been way too long since I've talked to both of you, but it's funny because like a few times where we've like scheduled us to talk like literally a week plus in advance, Disney will drop a ton of stuff, and then this happened again with like major things. So I'm kind of like, we just need to keep scheduling things, and then we'll keep getting announcements. So
Exactly.
Let's dive into all the deets.
Let's do it. Where can everybody find you on social media, Drew?
Yeah, so this is George and I's inside joke, but X, formerly known as Twitter, at Drew Disney Dude, Instagram, Drew the Disney Dude, and YouTube, Drew the Disney Dude. And TikTok, I'm assuming by the time this airs, will be back online, so maybe you'll find me there as well.
There we go. Mr. Italiano, where can everybody find you on social media?
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base on Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There we go. Let's dive into our first topic today, which is the Haunted Mansion. Now, who is this guy right here? I don't know.
Oh, no, he looks pretty ugly to me.
So we got this from the one and only Drew, the Disney dude. It says here, the new Haunted Mansion bride looks phenomenal. The floating effect is done extremely well. Also, love the cat chilling next to her. The A Ghost Will Follow You Home scene has also been updated when the ride opens tomorrow, January 18th. So I'll kind of play this while we talk. But Drew, overall, thoughts on this new bride? Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, so I mean, I know that there's been a lot of, talk and feedback about why the scene was changed. But like without knowing that, I think that Disney would have been better off just not saying why the change was done, which I talked to you guys a little bit about, before we started recording. But like whenever it comes to Disney changing something, I'm always looking at how are they updating it? Is it just an update? Is there technological improvements here? And with this bride, well, originally I was expecting, an animatronic. It's not an animatronic. It's a static figure just with some really cool technology here. So I'm assuming that Daniel Joseph over at Walt Disney Imagineering is the one who worked on this. He does all of the Illusioneering stuff for the Haunted Mansion, and just seeing it, I don't know. It's so simple, but it's something about it just feels so Haunted Mansion. I don't know how else to describe it. Like just with the wind moving and the candelabra and how she's just like not moving at all. It just feels right. So for me, it feels classic Haunted Mansion while also being a very even the flames on the candelabra. It's so simple, but it's done very well. So I'm on board with it, and also the fact that the cat's there too. I like the cat.
In the words of in the words of OG, it's very Haunted Mansion-y.
Yeah.
It is. I don't know how else to describe it. When I see that, I'm like, oh yeah, that's Haunted Mansion.
It's Haunted Mansion. Yeah, it's a great effect. Sometimes there's like beauty in simplicity. I've always said that with like World of Color, for example. One of my favorite scenes in a whole show is when you hear the Little Mermaid song, and it's Part of Your World, and you just see the blue fountains going like this. There's not a whole lot really going on with that scene. They're not throwing everything at you like effect wise, just beautiful lights, water, and music. And sometimes it just works really, really well. This is one of those cases. It's like you were saying, Drew, it's a static figure, but with the projections or the lighting and making it look like she's floating and the candelabra, I think it looks absolutely phenomenal. This is a huge upgrade. What are your thoughts, Mr. Italiano?
I completely agree. I think it's very technological, but very simplistic. And it's when you mesh them both together, it works really well. Sometimes less is more, and sometimes more is just too much.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. Sometimes you don't need that much to make it look cool, and this is exactly a perfect example of that, right? This is like the perfect amount of what you need to do. It's new technology, but it also blends in nicely, like Drew was saying, with the rest of the mansion. It's not jarring where it stands out like this is like way more technologically advanced than everything else, and it feels awkward. It feels like it fits in really well. So yeah,
Actually, the prior bride, I would say, seemed more awkward.
Yeah.
Like just the proportions, like of her body, her head, like didn't match. Like it just looked, as our good friend Michael Ebba says, it looked like a projection face on a bowling ball. Like,
there you go. That works.
That's so accurate.
That works. Now there are rumors. I'm curious to get your thoughts on this, Drew. There are rumors that the hanging scene in the stretching room might be going away, right? Like, people were speculating that it might have happened during this refurb. It didn't, but I guess Disney is still kind of considering that. What are your thoughts on that possibility?
Yeah, so before I go into that, I want to mention one more point about this bride too.
Sure.
In this new story, Disney's like saying officially that this is like a more somber, sad scene, and she's kind of just like reflecting on losing her husbands. And I'm almost wondering if Walt Disney Imagineering went with the choice to make this a static figure just with more simple movements. Because if she's sad, she's not going to be, grinning at the guests or in a playful kind of spooky tone. So I think that technology has to match the story that you're telling. And with Disney, most of the time they'd start with story and then base the figure after the story is established. So, obviously this has probably been in the works for years. So once they've established that, hey, this is the new path we're taking with the story where it's going to feel like a more somber, sad scene and it's just kind of like it hits a little bit harder. Well, having a static figure like this, but letting, the environment tell the story, I think works a lot better. That's why, like, when you're seeing in the background of the window, with the weather outside and that's kind of blowing the wind on the dress and just those little movements, that's all a result of the story if you really look into it pretty deeply.
It's fantastic points. It kind of reminds me of like the scene in Pirates of the Caribbean with the skeleton steering the ship with the wind and everything. Very simple effect, but super effective, you know?
But yeah, to answer your question, like I guess a little bit of context for everyone listening. So in my post here on the screen, this was the Los Angeles Times, Todd Martins, who got this story exclusively from Disney. And honestly, shout out to Todd for getting the information that he did, because like I feel like sometimes as Disney fans, some of the things that I thought, in previous years is sometimes it feels a little too corporate. But I feel like recently we've been kind of seeing the shift to where, and Josh D'Amaro himself actually made this point on an interview with Lou Mangello. Lou Mangello has also been around forever. Yeah. And Josh was kind of like, we want people to pick up on the fact that there are people doing these things. This isn't this massive multi-billion-dollar machine always. Like there's people working on these things, and that's what leads to these things happening and being revealed. So I do give Disney credit for, opening up a little bit, and who knows the true reason on why they were giving that quote of saying that, they're looking at this scene, in the pre-show with the hanging scene and possibly removing it. But I feel like there's got to be that possibility here that this is being done too, to kind of see the reaction, right? Like, for example, I could connect the Villain's Land to this is because it's another, haunted, wicked thing. But Chris Beatty, who is currently overseeing every single project at Walt Disney World right now, there was a quote before Villain's Land got announced officially at D23 in August that Disney took note to the fan reaction when the initial Blue Sky idea for Villains was announced. So if you look back to D23, all the way back in 2022, a big part of that wasn't just to pull back that curtain and say, hey, this is what we're thinking of. That was 100% for one of your top Imagineers who's been at the company forever, as well as Josh D'Amaro, with some of your biggest fans at the time. I think it was like 7,000 getting the reaction. And when they just revealed a Blue Sky concept for Villain's Land, like there wasn't even a concept art. It was literally just like the Maleficent scene from Sleeping Beauty on screen. And everyone stood up and started clapping and applauding. Well, to them, that's going to say, hey, if we greenlight this and spend hundreds of millions of dollars on this, that's a good thing. Here we are in early 2025, and construction is starting this year on Villain's Land. I do believe that Epic Universe opening with Dark Universe is a part of that, but that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, I mean, with this, I think that to kind of tie in my thoughts, I do feel like there are things that Disney's going to put out there, want to see the reaction, especially with some of the reactions to this AI artwork that we've seen in Haunted Mansion, the store. So like they've already seen how the reactions are to Haunted Mansion, and rightfully so. It's Haunted Mansion. Like without these classic attractions, you don't have Disney today. Like these things just don't exist. The originality in these classic attractions have led to this company being so successful, which allows them to use these IPs now. It's all one giant connection. It's all connected if you go all the way back to the 1950s. But me personally, I think a lot of people know, it's not a secret by any means with me personally, that I'm usually always very positive towards Disney, just anything in general. That's the angle that I take because, quite honestly, there's so much negativity in the world. You turn on the news and you'll see some horrific story within 5 minutes, but there's never a positive story about something that I could just go on TikTok and see that's positive, right? So I don't know. That's how I feel with my content. Is I try to be positive with it, but when I look at the possibility of Disney removing that scene from the Haunted Mansion stretching room, is it even Haunted Mansion anymore at that point? Like even me, I'm kind of like besides the facade itself, that's obviously the eye that draws you in to want to go on the attraction. What is that? And then you go inside. That's the first like wow moment of the Haunted Mansion with that iconic narration done by Paul Frees, and that sets up like the entire story. Is this is a Haunted Mansion? There's no way to escape, and you're going through it. So good luck. That's
Right.
that. It's all connected. So I know that Disney is saying that they're looking at it and it's complicated, and that they could have made this decision long ago. But the reason why they haven't made it is they know that would cause an uproar. Just like this attraction next to me, which I love dearly, but hasn't gone over very well. But like, man, I don't know. I feel like the only way that I would be okay, and even this might be a stretch, is like if Disney put out the replacement for this before it went away. But what would you even do to set up this is the entire storyline set up for the Haunted Mansion. So it's like Kim Arvran said in that article, this is a very complicated one, and I feel like the easiest way to not worry about the complications is just to not do it.
Yeah.
Put a sensitivity warning or something. But if we're going to cater to everyone, then how are you catering to everyone, if that makes sense, right? Like you can't be worried about when there's so many millions of people to visit these parks every year. You can't make everyone happy, and that's everything life.
It's almost like really quick a quote that I love from The Incredibles when Syndrome says, when everybody's super, then no one will be. So it's like it gives you that sense, like when everybody is on the same page and everyone's supposed to have the same thoughts, it's like, well, at the end of the day, what does it do? It doesn't impact you in that way. The Haunted Mansion is supposed to give off a specific kind of vibe, a feel that it's like you're not walking into a mansion going to a soiree, you're going into a swinging wake, so it's like
literally
you give off that kind of. And I get it, there are people who are sensitive to the subject matter, but I agree with you, Drew. Like they should do something like maybe have like a statement put out, like, if it's there are some scenes that are sensitive to certain subject matters or what have you.
Yeah, no, that's what I would do. I think it's a great idea, Drew. You could put out a sensitivity warning somewhere in the queue. There are scenes in this attraction if that might trigger some emotions or what have you. But this is the thing. It's like there's no evidence. I've never heard of anyone unaliving themselves because of this particular scene or anything like that. And it's like, at what point, like, where does that end, right? Like, do we not allow killing in movies and stuff? Because
I was just about to say, I was just I don't want to cut you off, but do you want to finish your thought before? I don't.
Oh no, go ahead.
So I was thinking too, is like you look at movies, right? Like movies have ratings. Like you have PG-13, and then you have like rated R. Like, should rated R movies not exist because kids are in the world? No, it's just that kids don't go and see those things.
Right.
And I also think that there's the fact that Haunted Mansion, it was created in a different time. The world now, it's like our world is so constantly changing with social media and everything, and I could go on a whole tangent about that. But like Haunted Mansion it opened in the 60s? Like it's been around for over 50 years now. So it's like you have to look at when these attractions were created and how the world was at that time. And if you're so concerned about changing everything to how this world is now, well then what are you going to do in 10 years when the world's changed then? And also the fact that I think that if you're trying to maybe cater to that audience that is offended by this or feels sensitive to it, there's obviously nothing wrong with that. There's 8 billion people on this planet and everyone's going to feel differently about things. And who knows what people have gone through in their life that could cause those things. People don't think about those things. It's just reaction, but you have to think about it, I forgot what I was going to say, but I think I was kind of at the point is who is supporting Haunted Mansion in the big picture, right? I feel like Haunted Mansion has been one of these attractions that has this die-hard fan base.
Yeah.
Whereas those people who might be more sensitive to it might not be visiting, Disneyland every single week or month like these diehards. So what are you saying to the people? And Disneyland is much more of a locals park. So like, what are you saying to the people that have supported this company for so long, and especially this attraction, if a change is made by like this? But I don't know. I'm very open-minded personally, which is a big part of why I'm so positive. So it's not that I would hate. I don't know. It's not that I would hate a change. It's just, what is that change, and would they be transparent with us to make that change so good that I'm amazed by it? And
Well,
that's
and it's
something that
too,
we don't know.
when
Right.
it's
100%.
too, I haven't heard a single person say, to my knowledge, that they are disturbed by that scene in the beginning of the Haunted Mansion. I haven't heard anything. Really, the only people that are kind of bringing it to the surface level of it is Disney themselves, because I feel like that they feel like they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. They're anticipating somebody to say something. So it's almost like they're trying to beat them to the punch. But what it's doing is it's allowing conversations to arise and say, oh, yeah, why is that there? That shouldn't be there, because Disney is actually bringing up the conversation. So I think sometimes Disney could be their own worst enemy with that. And I'm with you, Drew. I don't mind change to an extent, as long as it caters to not necessarily the people, but it caters to the storyline of what it's supposed to be. Can it complement of what it's replacing, or succeed to make it better?
Right.
That's my thing. But I mean, as of right now, I guess they're just kind of hanging by a thread.
Well, and it's kind of
Was
like
that an intentional pun?
Yeah.
and the thing too is kind of like Pirates of the Caribbean is a perfect example. The burning city, the burning town. I mean, do we get rid of that because LA recently just had a horrible fire disaster, still going through it? Like, at what point does this stop? Like, where you kind of have to just accept that bad things do happen in the world, like you said, Drew. Put the sensitivity warnings and all that. That's totally. I think in some cases, likely needed in a lot of cases. But
yeah, I do agree with. I think kind of like what I mentioned, you never know what people are going through, and being sensitive to people to make them feel welcomed is not a bad thing.
Right.
But you can't always cater to everyone, but I cut you off. Please finish your thought.
Oh, no, you're right. No, you're right. You can't cater to everybody in every circumstance. And, if you do that, you're gonna really sterilize your park to where there's no conflict anywhere. Any of these attractions are going to have nothing bad happening in them, and you're going to have a very boring experience, So life happens, and there are really negative, ugly things that happen in the world. Some people might get triggered by that or whatever, and you respect those people by maybe putting those warnings out there. But if you go in there and you start removing things, it's a never-ending thing. It's whack-a-mole, because there's always going to be something that's going to offend somebody. So we'll see.
Yep.
But
Agreed.
we do have some ground movement coming for Anaheim and Walt Disney World. We'll start with
this is a much more exciting topic to talk about. But I do feel it's important to kind of, I don't know, like in my opinion, there's a very strong difference between just being overwhelmingly positive and being overwhelmingly negative. I think if you just look at things logically, you don't react to them emotionally, and then just throw your thoughts out there. If you take it in, think about it, and then share a crafted thought, and just be balanced. When we talk about these things, it's because we love Haunted Mansion so much, and because this attraction connects all the way back to Walt Disney and has such a long legacy and impact. With Haunted Mansion goes well outside of Disney parks. That's impacted so many millions. Like, if someone says, do you know the song, and they just played Grim Grinning Ghost, it's probably on the same level of Zippity Doodah, to where it's that iconic around the world. So I hope that Disney does see our feedback here, and personally, I hope that they decide against it and keep that scene, because it's like I said, it's kind of like the first thing. But yeah, it's like, where do you stop with these things? And I feel like there's always something happening like this now, and I want to focus on the positives here. So that leads us into our next topic.
Our next topic, which is we'll start with Avengers Campus, right? Because we're keeping it at Disneyland, and then we'll go to Walt Disney World. Yeah. Avengers Campus officially broke. Well, the e-ticket and that what was it, Stark Flight Lab officially broke ground. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, this is a long time coming. I mean, I think the official announcement for this land was in 2019, I believe, or something like that. And here we are 6 years later. Now we're finally getting the attraction.
Yeah, it's I remember like the initial announcement of this e-ticket, I think was done before some ceremony with at the time Bob Chapek, and he like announced it before the presentation started. And I remember I was on some social media and it caught me off guard at the time. And I think they gave out like that original concept art on like a little postcard to all the attendees. I could be wrong. But yeah, that was a long time ago. That was D23 in 2019, right? Yeah. So
Mhm.
it's been a while.
It's been a
It's
while.
crazy that this is a crazy thought that I just thought of. That attraction was announced longer. The time frame between the announcement to construction starting now was longer than every single project in development for Disney Parks and Disney Cruise Line around the world right now being completed by the end of 2029. There's going to be dozens of projects done within the next 5 years before this single one broke ground. So
Wild.
I don't know. If you look at time like that, it's kind of interesting and fascinating to think about. But yeah, I don't think there's a lot of talk about Stark Flight Lab and Infinity Defense just as a result of that. It's like people are kind of like, I'll believe it when I see it. But I do really think that Infinity Defense and Flight Lab are going to be like an incredible combo. You have this insane e-ticket, and Imagineering has already confirmed that they're doing like full scale immersive sets. Like that was confirmed long ago, back in like September of 2023, I think. And then the fact that you have this much smaller attraction, but that's not a bad thing. I actually love that. We've talked about this before, how not everything has to be an e-ticket. Like you don't always need this shiny new toy. So, well, we are getting the shiny new toy, and it's around, the Avengers nonetheless. You also have this just fun ride that's going to make people smile and laugh literally right next door. And that answers some of the feedback that people have had around Avengers Campus, that it just didn't deliver for being such a massive, IP, especially with how much money Disney spent on buying Marvel. But yeah, I think this is going to be great. And
Now,
I
do you
think
think,
that
Drew, that the set pieces for Infinity Defense will be like on par with what we see for like Rise of the Resistance, something like along those lines?
Yeah, I would not be shocked if Infinity Defense is like the Avengers version of Rise of the Resistance. And like also the fact that like Disneyland has these space constraints too, like at least for now before, Disneyland Forward really gets going. So I think that they understand that we need to get this right. And maybe that led to this attraction taking a little bit longer to kind of get this concept down. But now that concept's locked and we got the ride vehicle reveal. We know that King Thanos is going to be here. We know that we're going to be going to, New York, Wakanda, like all these different places. And I really do think it's going to be a blast. I think that this one will kind of be like one of these attractions that wins many awards once it opens, and it's going to be awesome for Disneyland just to have a major attraction like that.
Now they're going. Now we saw the ride vehicle at D23 this past D23 in August. Is it what are you hearing, or what's the going kind of rumor right now with what kind of attraction? Is it going to be kind of like a similar to a Transformers, or you think it'll be a little bit more high tech than that? Or
Yeah, I think I don't want to talk about that too much. But yeah, I think there will be some surprises here with this ride that's going to make it unique to where it's not just like, for example, when you have Peter Pan over in Tokyo,
yeah.
like it looks similar to that, but it also looks similar to, Transformers out here, Universal. But like if you take all of the ideas and you combine it to make something new, and even if there's just a few uniqueness factors as technology advances, that's all you really need. But yeah,
Yeah.
I do think that there are some Transformers connections here, no doubt.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Drew. And that's something that I think fans need to also remember is that just because it is a similar ride system as Transformers doesn't mean it's going to be the same experience. For example, technically, Small World is the same ride system as Pirates of the Caribbean. And with those set pieces, and the music and everything, how drastically different those two experiences are, what you can do with music and set pieces and various effects, you can change the whole thing, even if it's the exact same ride system. So Another perfect example is Dinosaur in Indiana Jones Adventure.
Yeah.
Very, very different. So we'll see.
Or pretty soon we'll be saying Indiana Jones and Indiana Jones.
There we go. Exactly. But what say you, George? The ground officially is getting moved, as tomorrow said.
Yes, and I'm still actually looking out for the Grand to be moved, because actually I was there on the 13th and I went up on the Pixar Pal Around, aka Mickey's Fun Wheel, aka the Sun Wheel. And I was trying to see if I can get like a little sneak peek if anything was moving. Nothing yet, but I think the first phases was just closing down the Timon parking lot to kind of like make way to start clearing stuff out for them to officially break ground. So it wouldn't surprise me in the next coming weeks if we start really seeing the dirt fly. And I am very excited for it. I think with Infinity Defense, which I'm sorry, I still have to try to get used to saying that. I'm so used to saying Avengers e-ticket, like up into the point. It's like I don't know. Maybe I'll just keep calling it Avengers e-ticket. I don't know. It's like, hey guys, do you want to go on Infinity Defense? Like I don't know. It sounds like a play that you would do in football, like Infinity Defense. Like
it sounds like a deodorant to me, actually, but I don't know. It sounds like a deodorant, but yeah. And this is crazy too, right? If you think about it, Avengers Campus is it has such a small footprint, and for such a small footprint to have, Infinity Defense, Stark Flight Lab, Mission Breakout, and Web Slingers, that's a pretty stacked land for considering how small it is,
And also Mission Breakout, because I mean they still consider, so that's 4, right? That's 4 attractions they'll have altogether.
Yeah, 4. Yep, exactly.
So now, being that they're going to have that whole backstage area, that's going to be the expansion. But I'm assuming they're still going to utilize what used to be the Mystic Arts area. Is that going to be for like extra like queue for Stark Flight Lab or what have you? Because I'm assuming that they're going to use that extra space for that, since majority of the show buildings are going to be in the backlot area.
Well, yeah. I mean, all that stuff is really close to that Doctor Strange show. I have not heard anything, but I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. What are your thoughts on that, Drew? About that being kind of like engulfed into this whole project somehow?
Yeah. Honestly, my gut feeling would be that Doctor Strange area would stay there in some way, just because like they have a lot of that backstage space, and I think that's why you're kind of seeing like the red card trolley close for that, all that area. So I would hope that they would just find space, and just the fact that Stark Flight Lab isn't like as much of a major thing. It's themed around like kind of like a warehouse in a sense, where they're testing this technology and then you're going for the ride. So like if they just have like a more standard indoor queue, I don't think there's anything wrong with that there. Whereas like with, Infinity Defense, that's where you're going to have the major theming setting up the entire story. So my gut feeling would be that Avengers Campus will stay the same as is, just with like the adjustments to how they are connecting it to that, facade that's already there where they do all the performances every day.
I have a really nerdy question for you, Drew, and this is we're gonna go.
I'm a nerd myself, so ask away.
I think you'll appreciate this question. Okay, so we have Mission Breakout, right? And then we have that whole area behind it where we're actually building this e-ticket, right? And for all the concept art that we've seen, it's gonna be a big kind of square boxy kind of building, like a Cosmic Rewind-ish kind of situation. Yeah. Well, Mission Breakout is a very visual attraction from the outside. It's supposed to kind of loom over everything. It gives you that kind of like that forced perspective to look really huge. I mean, it is huge, but it's supposed to look really like foreboding and looming over the whole land. Do you think having that big box behind it might affect that effect? Or do you think they're going to situate it in a way where it's like it's far enough away where it doesn't affect that? That's my worry, because that big box would be right there,
That's actually something that I haven't thought about yet. Yeah, that's a good point. Because like my first thought was, well, one of the main reveals of Mission Breakout is from once you enter through Hollywoodland, right? So you wouldn't see the Infinity Defense side of campus with that reveal. But we also don't know where some of these new attractions and additions are coming. So if Monsters Inc. and all that Hollywood area changes, you still have to keep that entrance to Avengers Campus in some way. But I'm assuming that the reveal of Mission Breakout wouldn't be affected. So I don't know. I don't think that it would affect it, just because if you're going into that backstage space, I'm trying to like visualize it in my head, it would probably sit back far enough to where you kind of have Flight Lab, like if you're walking past Web Slingers and then you go back, I'm thinking Infinity Defense would sit far enough back to where Mission Breakout wouldn't be affected. And then you kind of have Stark Flight Lab up in like that front, like right side, like right behind Doctor Strange. I didn't describe that very well, but I don't. It's hard to describe a land in just words rather than like an image. But I would hope not. I don't think it would.
Yeah,
just based off the way that the walkways are staged and everything like that.
Yeah. Now, do you think that we have Hyperion right next door, right?
Yeah.
At the Hollywood Boulevard. What do you think? You think Disney's going to save that for like Marvel expansion, or you think it's going to become something else in your opinion?
Yeah, I know. Jack, DSLY Newscast, he put a video up recently about how they might save that space and transition it to Marvel, like you just said. I think it'll be very interesting to see like what pieces either move now for these new attractions and lands,
Yeah.
and the things that don't move that might signal what's happening down the road, if that makes sense. Like, if
Right.
we expect something to close, for example, out here, like everyone was like, oh, Animation Courtyard's going to be closing. But reality is, Animation Courtyard was never closing because that's already earmarked for something coming from 2030 to 2034, for example, right? So if you go out to Disneyland, well, I'm sure that some of these Imagineers that are doing these concept designs have already earmarked things for those back 5 years of Disneyland once, Coco opens and Pandora opens and this Avengers expansion opens. So yeah, I think that there's a lot of possibility here for what could be happening later down the road that's not even a part of this first 5 years of investment. So
I just wish that whatever they
interesting.
decide to do with Hollywoodland or the backlot, I really wish that they would use it for anything except for Pandora, because I can't, like, even, I mean, I'll eat crow if after the fact, if that's where Pandora is going and they make it look so immaculate, and the transition from Buena Vista Street to Carthay Circle down into Pandora, I don't know how that's going to transition wise, but if they can make it work, then okay, I'll eat crow. But I just don't know how it's going to look. And then you turn the corner and there's Mission Breakout. I don't see where it's going to fit. Where I would put Pandora over in the Simba parking lot. I would do absolutely anything with, like, put Zootopia, expand it to Marvel, put even Coco in there. I don't care. I just think Pandora is, I just don't get it.
Well, Coco would be kind of cool because you can go down to Hollywood Boulevard and then you can put that whole area back there with Monsters Inc. Make that the Coco ride with a little Mexican area in front of it, and have it like Olvera Street out here in LA. That would be kind of cool. But the interesting thing here, though, is that we're gonna have kind of like a battle of like the Hollywood heavyweights in a way, because you're gonna have like Kevin Feige, like, well, I need some room to work here, guys. You know what I'm saying? So like James Cameron can't come in and just like wipe out all of Hollywood land, because then where is the Marvel stuff gonna expand? You're gonna have to leave some room for that, right? But at the same time, James Cameron's gonna want to do what he's gonna want to do. So very curious as to that whole situation.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's actually
right?
a really good point that I hadn't thought about, because Feige and Cameron are extremely involved in these projects to the point that they've been on stage with Josh, and yeah, that's a very interesting way to look at it. But I guess to kind of add on to that, that's what's kind of funny about this is, like, if you look out here Walt Disney World when these things were announced in August, like, walking out, we were all so excited, and then little by little these closures and changes start to get announced of like what's replacing what, and all of the questions have been answered for out here. Like, we know that this Cars area in Villains Land is replacing Tom Sawyer and There Was America. That was announced like 48 hours after. And then we got Monsters Inc. replacing Muppets, and Muppets taking over Rock and Roller Coaster a few months later. When you look at Disneyland, like, it's just like 70th anniversary, Walt animatronic. This is awesome. But like, what about these things? And like,
Right.
I understand the fact that they didn't confirm when construction starting on Pandora. And we know that Coco's in 2026. So it's like, even if Pandora starts construction at the end of this year and then Coco is, whenever in 2026, like, there is more time there to announce those things. But at the same time, I think Disney is well aware of the fact that once you put something out into the public, well, Disney fans is just the way that we are, even the three of us. We're like, where's this going? What is this going to be? Even, 5 years before it even opens. So I just think that it's kind of funny how out here it's like we have our answers, and some of these projects we're getting like this summer, which we'll talk about, in a little bit, are like they're happening now. But when you look at Disneyland, it's, Disneyland 70th is going to be great, but I think that they're saving a lot for Disneyland 75th too.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah. There's a lot of question marks with like, where's Pandora going and like, where's Coco going? It almost kind of makes me wonder, like, do they even really know yet?
Yeah. I would imagine that they do.
Start on the Eastern Gateway. Like, that has to be completed before anything else gets completed. Like, they didn't even start on that yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy because, like, kind of like what I mentioned earlier with Disneyland being like such an interesting land situation. Like, I feel like every decision made for Disneyland is so much more valuable. Like, because Walt Disney World has more land, but at the same time, people, are always like, oh, why are they replacing this? Disney has land. But something that I'll always say personally, and we could have an entire hour-long conversation about this, is that I'm laughing because I laugh at some of the things that people say. I laugh at them and they don't know it. They're like, why is Disney replacing this? And I'm like, guys, okay. Let's be so for real for a minute, right? if you're going to make the argument of the blessing of size with Walt Disney World, it is a fact. We do have
Yeah.
the land, and even on the Skyliner, it's like Walt Disney World is the size of the city of San Francisco and double of the island of Manhattan, right? There's no doubting that Disney has size. But if all of this land is eaten up within 5, 10, 15 years, then we're right back at square one just 15 years from now. And then you start replacing things then. So you make the smart business choice now to replace Tom Sawyer Island and Rivers of America. And then 10, 15 years from now, when you do another Magic Kingdom expansion, that's where you have to bite the bullet and go outside of the berm beyond the train track. No one thinks, and it's just like, these decisions that Disney is making are very clear as day if you just use your brain. But sometimes I'm convinced people don't have brains.
100%, Drew, and we have the same issue out here in California in a way with the fandom, right? Because I see a lot of fans like, oh, well, Disneyland 4 is a 30-year thing.
That's a good thing, yeah.
It's a good thing, yeah. Because why would you want to develop all the land that you just freed up in like 5? Why would you want to use all that up in like 5 or 6 years?
And they're like, what's next?
You're back to square one again. Like the whole point is to give you investment over the decades. Yeah. That's the point, you know.
That's why we saw.
And I know I'm going like completely off the rails here with this, but
it's okay. That's just how we are. We just gotta accept it.
Exactly.
Like as we develop as humans, moving on like with technology and social media, I mean, that's how people even view anything nowadays. Like you go on Instagram, YouTube Shorts, TikTok, everything is so fast paced. Everything, it just hits you all at once. People don't even sit down to watch a full movie from beginning to end anymore. So it's like with every little thing, it's like they want it now. It's like, get it done, just do it. And it's like when you tell them, oh yeah, 30 years, for us as nerds, we're like, oh, this is great. They got a 30-year plan.
Like, I'm thinking like I'll be like a grandpa by then. Like how cool is that, you know? But
yeah, exactly. You want these places to be able to tap into the available land for decades to come. I mean, the last thing you want to do is start using all the available land up. So then they have to start replacing things. And then we have the conversation of like, okay, should we replace Tiki Room with Moana? You don't want that.
Exactly,
you want
you
know?
Although I will say, I do hope a lot of this stuff is done before I start collecting my Social Security, you know, but like, you know, but it's always nice.
I'm not in that boat yet.
Yeah.
But I am excited to say that, you know, at least Disney has a plan that they foresee themselves doing this stuff 30, 40, 50 years down the road.
Yeah.
Even after the fact that we're gone, you know, Disney will still continue to go, even as Walt said it, even after Disney, even after himself, it will continue to go on.
Yeah, it's wild. It's absolutely wild. But you know what's interesting too, Drew? You mentioned Disney kind of like is listening to the fans, like with the AI artwork and the Haunted Mansion gift shop and things like that. I want to get your opinion.
They see everything.
They see everything. And George, you mentioned this actually on the phone with me earlier. But I want to get your opinion on it, Drew. The whole Muppet thing. Like, I feel like that. Okay,
as in Muppets 4 out here, like my thoughts on it.
Oh no, Muppet. Yeah, the Muppets out there. The replacement of it. I feel, and this is just my theory, and I'm kind of curious as to what you think about it. I feel like the Rock and Roller Coaster decision was sort of to offset the loss of the Muppet area for fans. Like, I feel like they were like, okay, we're closing Muppets, yes, but the Muppets live on over here now. And that was kind of like in a weird way, they were sort of listening to the fans, where it's like, we understand this is a loss, but we're not leaving you empty-handed. Is that kind of what you took away from it, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, I mean, they kind of confirmed that in the Parks blog article, kind of like how they were saying, we know that you guys love the Muppets, but we're giving you the same high energy, you know, humor, craziness with this coaster. Yeah. And also the fact that, yes, it is a reimagined Rock and Roller Coaster. Like, it's not being built from the ground up. But like, it still is the first ever Muppets ride, you know? Yeah. Like, I'm not going to look at a reimagined Indiana Jones opening an Animal Kingdom in 2027 and saying, this is an Indiana Jones dinosaurs here. Like, we're going to look at this as a Muppets attraction. Especially with, like, I guess I'll start at square one. So what I don't want to say what I would love for Disney to do, but what I think would be best for Disney to do would be to take Rock and Roller Coaster offline as soon as possible. There's no new ride that we know of opening here at Walt Disney World in 2026. I'm not counting the Mandalorian and Grogu mission as the big thing. It's one thing, right? Excited for it, don't get me wrong. I love Fortnite. I love Epic Games. I love what they do with Unreal Engine. The more they do with Disney, the better, because I'm a Fortnite nerd. Just people don't know that about me. But like we've seen this thing where they want to have something new every year, right? It was, if you look all the way back, it was like Toy Story Land, and then you saw Frozen, and then Galaxy's Edge, Pandora, then you get to like Runaway Railway, Tron, all these things. It's like every single year there's something new. So I think that I guess I could connect this to Disneyland. If you look at the transition of Tower of Terror to Mission Breakout, that took like 150 days. People forget how fast they did that, and that's an entire structure, exterior, 360, and the inside. If you look at Rock and Roller Coaster, the reimagining time there should not be any longer than a year. So if they took down Rock and Roller Coaster this year, which it seems inevitable, then that very easily can be the new thing for 2026. But if you take down Rock and Roller Coaster sooner, and somehow they're able to leave Muppet Vision open a little bit longer, kind of like what we're seeing with Dinosaur, but they can start construction on the Monsters Inc. coaster backstage to where you kind of keep it Muppet Vision open. The only concern I have with that is that the exit of Muppet Vision is right by where the coaster is going to be. So would they be able to work there without having to close Muppets? But in a perfect world, you keep Muppet Vision open and you get that coaster open as soon as possible. So there's a short gap between no Muppets at Hollywood Studios. So I think that that's my ideal scenario, so that the Muppets aren't out of the park for a long time. But I mean, you guys reacted to my Monsters Inc. video a few months ago. You guys know how I feel about this. I was not like, to see it officially, it's like, oh, this is happening. But when I sat down and worked on that video in September, like, I really thought about both possibilities. Some people were saying Animation Courtyard, some people were saying Muppets Courtyard, and I'm like, man, it really could be either of them at this point, because if they want to hope that the fact that maybe they get the Marvel rights within the next 5 years, then you have Animation Courtyard wide open to put Marvel there. Or let's say Zootopia 2 just takes off, or Incredibles 3 takes off, like I said in my video, well, then you have Animation Courtyard to put it there.
Right. Well, and also too, Drew, to your point, even if they decided to put Monsters Inc. in Animation Courtyard and people say, oh, Muppets is saved. No, not really, because it's just saved during this project.
Right.
Sooner or later.
It might have been gone in 2030 instead of 2025.
Exactly.
Right. It's an outdated attraction. And I get the sentiment because it's Jim Henson's last thing, right?
Absolutely.
And I understand that, but it's like, but we also have a theme park that we need to also manage, and you can't have things that are like overly outdated or stale. You have to kind of progress, you know what I'm saying? So I think Disney's handling the Muppet thing really honestly the best way they could, right? So they're not abandoning the franchise. We're getting, like you were saying, Drew, an actual attraction now based on these wonderful characters. And they're not even abandoning the Muppet Vision 4D thing, because they've even said publicly that it will live on in some other way. So, I mean, maybe that'll be on Disney Plus, maybe it'll be somewhere else, but that's cool. I mean, I think they've done everything they possibly could to sort of like make it good. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what else you could do. You can't leave the attraction as is forever. It looks like it's from the late 80s, early 90s at this point, and
clearly they want to maximize, Hollywood Studios. So Hollywood Studios roster is already stacked if you think about it.
Yeah,
this is just going to maximize it even more. And even like another thing, if you're looking at business choices, like the only thing being built from the ground up in this Monsters Inc. land is that coaster. So the construction turnaround time on this transition from Muppets to Monsters is a lot quicker. It's also a more inexpensive option, and that brings the return on investment a lot quicker. So you're delivering an incredible Monsters Inc. attraction that the average guest is going to love. I already know I'm going to love it. And then you're also creating a brand new coaster with Muppets that is going to bring in your audience that already likes your parks to experience that, because people already love the track layout and the thrills. Then you're adding these characters that people go nuts for. So from a business perspective, it makes perfect sense. But, like you said, Chris, when people have these emotional attachments, it's not always easy for some people to look at these things like business choices. Yes, it is sad that Jim Henson's last project is leaving in this sense. But, maybe I'm being way too optimistic here. Let's hope that Disney brings it back in a way even more than Disney Plus, like a physical environment with the pre-show and just something.
Drew, let me ask you this. Being that Rock and Roller Coaster is going to be rethemed to the Muppets, and you have the building structure that held the Lightning McQueen Lightning McQueen Racing Academy, which is now going to eventually be the villains, but chances are that's not going to be around forever. Could you possibly see that back area becoming a newer, updated version of Muppets Courtyard, where they could put Muppet Vision 3D over in that building right next to Rock and Roller Coaster?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people have talked about that possibility and how like perfect on paper it seems. But me personally, I don't think that that's ever going to happen. I think that they'll want to kind of continue to use that theater as like a flex space to bring in these new live entertainment options. Because if you get people to the very back of the park, not only just with this Muppets coaster, but then get them to go past that, then that's maximizing guest flow even more. Whereas if you put Muppet Vision back there and it kind of just starts to sit over time, well, that might not be maximizing capacity at that point. So me personally, I don't think that the Muppets are going to replace this villain show once it ends its run, whenever that is. But what I do hope is that they really transform this Rock and Roller Coaster area to make it feel Muppets Courtyard-y, even without that theater being utilized, if that makes sense. Like something that I was thinking about literally just a couple hours ago, I was, getting my thoughts together coming on to talk with you guys, is if you look over at Shanghai Zootopia Land, right? There is an incredible puppet show over there that no one ever talks about in that Shanghai Zootopia Land, where they have all these characters that come out every single day, multiple times, and these puppets interact on the facades like they've come out of their apartments in Zootopia.
Yeah.
So we've seen the great moments with great moments, with the Muppets over at Magic Kingdom before, with those puppets in Liberty Square. So where the guitar is now for Rock and Roller Coaster, let's say they remove that guitar for some reason, and then they retheme the shape of this building to like kind of like the facades we see in Muppets Courtyard now. Well, they could actually make those accessible to where you could do a live puppet show with the Muppets in this courtyard. So now you have a coaster and you have an incredible live entertainment option. And that would be an incredible way to take literally just a box of a facade and add live entertainment and make that courtyard feel so much more alive. So that's how you could take something, and yes, it's just a reimagined coaster that some people might say, but if you really let these Imagineers be creative, and let's say you retheme these facades to make it feel like these Muppets live here, and then right behind us, we can go live this story with the Muppets. Well, if you bring the characters to life, well, in a way that's better than Muppet Vision, because that's live entertainment and there's actual connection there and it feels more real. So even though it's just a very small courtyard, there's so much potential here, from merchandise to character opportunities to music. If Imagineering gets to do what they want to and people are creative and they come up with these ideas, it's not a matter of if the ideas exist. I think it's just a matter of if it will happen, and that remains to be seen. So we'll see.
Well said.
Do you think, my last question on this
Yes.
subject matter, the current theater that still holds Muppet Vision right now, that it's eventually going to be part of Monsters Inc., do you see a brand new show of Monsters Inc. going in there, or do you see them just kind of bringing over like the laugh floor?
I think I want to pull this up really quick because I don't want to speak on something. I think that Disney confirmed that this is going to be a new show.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure.
Yeah, I thought I heard that too.
Yeah. So I do think it's still interesting that this is the only place they ever posted this was on Disney Parks blog, because they knew what the reaction was going to be. Let's see here. So, also really quick, I do want to mention this. In the official announcement, it says the Muppets will be taking over Rock and Roller Coaster, teaming up with some of music's biggest stars. So this just isn't, the Muppets performing. I think we're going to see actual people come in. And that's why I was kind of paying a lot closer attention this year to the holiday specials, because if these artists are already working with Disney on the holiday specials, like the Christmas parade and the Thanksgiving special, well, maybe we'll see them, on, like, maybe we see someone like Elton John with teaming up with the Muppets, right?
Oh, that's sick.
That's there, but no one's talking about it.
And he did an episode of the original Muppet Show too. So to see that come as like a full 360, that would be cool.
Well, and that's the cool thing, because the Muppets have a history of doing that, where like you were saying, George, with the Muppet Show and stuff, interacting with real life celebrities and what have you. That'd be a cool homage to the.
There's so many ways that you can take just a simple 60-second long coaster and turn it into so much more, and that's the power of story. And if anyone's gonna do story, it's gonna be Disney. But yeah, the article says it's gonna be a news show. So
cool.
This will. I almost feel like this show has to be better than the roller coaster in a sense, because so many people have experienced Muppet Vision over these last 30 plus years that, like, when they're stepping into that theater again, it's going to be like, oh, this is where Muppet Vision was. So it's like, how do you, and like, even like the pre-show for Muppets is so packed with those props, and even the theater itself, like they've even made improvements to the seating and the projections recently. So that's such a high capacity theater And now more than ever, that capacity is going to be used. So what do you do there? Like, is this going to be like a live production? Is it going to be like an animation? I, I think I'm more intrigued for what the show's going to be than the coaster, because we know exactly what the coaster's going to be, right? They're inviting us in because they need our laughter. There's going to be crazy moments between the doors. We're going to see the characters. It's pretty self-explanatory, right? But with the show, they're being very vague about it because they just wanted to, make it a part of the announcement. But what is this going to be? Because it's a massive theater. You have this massive screen. Do you turn that into a stage? Can it support a live production? What is it going to be? But yeah, I feel like they were purposely vague because they know that they need to get that right. So I hope they get it right.
Yeah, well said. Well said. We got
I hope that answers your guys' questions. That's I don't know. I think that when you're looking at, to wrap it all up, when you're looking at business choices allows for more creativity in a sense, right? These Imagineers don't get to choose what they work on, but if an Imagineer says, or if executives and leadership say, hey, you're working on this, well, then that forces them to work on something, and that creates more ideas. And when more ideas are put out there, more amazing things can happen.
No, 100%. And it's interesting too how certain things, like even certain restrictions, can sort of spark creativity. Like I know out here in Disneyland, we do have, a space issue.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And a lot of times that space issue has opened creative doors. Like, for example, the stretching room exists because, they had to find a way to get you underground and beyond the berm and things like that, So the reason why the Indiana Jones Adventure queue is so dope, where you kind of go seemingly forever, is for that same reason. So, it's
like
kind of interesting.
Snow White's Enchanted Witch in recent years, right? Like they weren't going to build an entire new attraction, but they enhanced a classic, and it's so much better now.
Yeah.
So it's I do think that there's more love poured into this park because you can kind of feel Walt's energy. Even when I was out there for one day at Disneyland in August on my birthday, I was just looking around Main Street, man. I'm just like, you can tell it's Disneyland, right? So yeah,
you got like a vibe, like a certain feeling.
I that's one of my core memories that I have, is just looking at the facades on Main Street, waiting for that D23 day cavalcade, and I'm like, man, this is just so cool, because that was like the most recent memory that I've had of Disneyland compared to when I was like so much younger. But yeah, Disneyland's the next 5 years are going to be great, and man, I can't wait. We need to talk about that Walt animatronic whenever it gets revealed in the coming months. Like if there's anyone that I'm going to talk with that Walt animatronic about, it's going to be you two. So I'm so excited for that. Cannot wait.
That's going to be, I mean, if they pull this off, Drew, I mean, sitting in that audience and seeing a real life Walt on that stage is gonna be crazy.
I've been thinking about that Walt animatronic nonstop even before it was officially announced, just because it was rumored, and just knowing that there's the potential of him addressing the audience and even like taking a step off the desk and turning around to address the board. There's so many things here that could happen, and I know that that's gonna be so good, and I cannot wait. I'm so ready. I'm ready.
And I think too, I was telling George this, recently, where I feel like, if this thing is a huge hit, right?
It's going to
I could see that. Yeah, I think it'll be a hit. I could see them putting it in Walt Disney World. I mean, look what they did with the partner statue. You find one in every park now.
Yeah, I don't want to take his idea, but one of my friends was talking to me recently about an idea he has to bring that Walt animatronic to Disney World, and my jaw dropped. I don't want to put it out there because then it would be considered an unsolicited idea, and then it might not happen. But I was just like, wow. Like, again, the ideas are out there. It's just people. Even Walt Disney has that quote, you can have the ideas, but you need the people to make the dream a reality. A lot of the situations in the world.
I will actually give you my idea on here, because I'm just going to throw it out there, because what I would absolutely love to see. Now, this is probably so far-fetched that, I mean, Disney could do it, but would they do it? I don't think so. I actually would love to see the segment that you watch on TV before you enter into the Carousel of Progress, where you have Robert and Richard Sherman at the piano and Walt is singing with them, A Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow. I would actually love to see an actual rendition of that, of all three of them as audio animatronics, when you enter into the theater, and then as you see it, then you spin, and then it starts the show.
George, I can only get so erect, man. Like, this is a great, unbelievable
George,
idea.
Why are you telling me this? No, I need that. I need it. Like that gif of like the girl throwing the money. It's like, give it to me.
Come on. Oh, that's amazing. Could you imagine? And what a beautiful tribute. I mean, unfortunately, we just lost Richard. I mean, now would be a really, really good time to pay homage to all three amazing men. So. Yeah,
and that's really quickly. I want to get to our next topics, but like, that's something that people don't talk about too. Is as technology evolves and gets better, then these experiences are better. a reason why I'm not complaining about a Figment ride not happening yet is every single day that goes by that we don't get a Figment ride means that Figment ride is going to be better when it happens because technology will be so advanced.
Yeah, exactly. Well said. And we got Drew the Disney Dude here on X. Walt Disney Imagineering has
Never seen
officially
this before.
has officially started on Tropical America's Land, opening at Disney's Animal Kingdom in 2027. The project team officially broke ground this morning on the first ever Encanto attraction. This Encanto attraction, I think, is gonna be pretty cool.
I didn't realize that 178,000 people saw that. Like, whoa, that's sometimes like I forget,
bro.
Like, I have like my own like realization moments with, whoa. But yeah, I saw that photo and man, I was shaking. I'm like,
you know, I mean, it's happening. It's happening. I mean, what do you think, Drew? Do you think it's gonna be kind of like a Mystic Manor kind of attraction? That's kind of what I'm thinking. But I mean,
well, I have thoughts on this. I guess I could promote my YouTube channel and say go watch my new YouTube video.
Absolutely, and it'll be in the description too. I'll be linking it.
I just uploaded a video today talking about this. But it's not even my idea, so I'll talk about it here. I guess I uploaded a YouTube video talking about like this topic, but the best idea I've seen for the Encanto ride is from Jack, TS1 Newscast. I'll talk about Jack a lot because Jack and I talk about a lot of things. We bounce ideas off of each other all the time. But a couple months ago when he uploaded his video, he was kind of like, I think the best case scenario for Encanto would be to make it an Omnimover, but not an Omnimover like Haunted Mansion to where it's happening continuously around you, but to where it's like Figment, to where whenever you enter a scene, that scene starts. And I think an Encanto Omnimover, very similar to Figment, where you kind of have like 2 sets of furniture moving like 8 people through at a time, would be great because that would make it feel more personal and intimate, like you're actually moving through the casita, if that makes sense. Whereas if it's like Haunted Mansion where things are just happening constantly, like how are they going to sell the story of, you know, we're going into all the rooms and we're seeing these rooms come alive with all the characters' gifts and abilities? It wouldn't feel as real. But, you know, if like the doors open and then you kind of enter the scene and you see Luisa and the projections and the lights twinkle and the animatronics and the music, and that would kind of feel like the movie where the things are happening around you because the Omnimover is programmed to each scene. So when Jack said that, I'm like, there you go. That's the home run. And
basically also too, just like the Enchanted Tale of Beauty and the Beast over in Tokyo, where in each specific room, you're kind of enclosed off. So as soon as you enter in that room, I mean, each vehicle is its own, I guess, teacup, or I guess
exactly.
That's but once you enter in that room, it kind of blocks you off from anything else surrounding you. And then say like you're in the dining room and they do the Be Our Guest scene. And then once that's over, you move outdoors to the snow scene with Belle and the Beast, you know, so that would be really cool.
The cool thing about Encanto is the entire thing is based around, you know, this house being magical. So even though in the movie we're not seeing like how you get out of their room, anything can be explained here through the magic of the candle. You know, if let's say this wall opens up with these projection effects and there's like these twinkling lights, you know, just opening up this door as we go into the next room. Well, that's possible because they're going beyond the story. And because we're here when Antonio is getting his gift, everything is leading up to that. So however we traverse through Casita, it doesn't matter because we know this house is magical. But what we do know, and what no one's really talking about, is that the finale scene is Antonio's room.
Oh. You said that no one's talking about it. I thought it was Bruno.
Well, I mean, we shouldn't be talking about him, right? So, but yeah, I mean, like, no one's talking about these official details. I'm like, whenever I'm seeing all this negativity online, and Disney has addressed that negativity in some senses, like, whenever I said in this post it's opening in 2027, I got so many sarcastic comments, and they're like, "Oh, I'll see you in 2057." I'm like, are you not looking at this? They're literally making it right now.
Yeah, and that's frustrating. That's frustrating because you know, look, Disney drops the ball. You know, they do. They're not perfect. They fumble all the time. But when they're giving us positive stuff, can we just for 1 minute just enjoy the positive news?
When construction started on Pandora and they did that groundbreaking ceremony with the Na'vi, people love that. But because it's now, this is like nothing against Morgan, this comment right here, but he's like, does anyone think it's funny how they pour dirt into a non-broken ground just for them to shovel it? haven't we been asking for signs of construction starting? And people, you guys have seen people like this. Just isn't me. Have you guys seen people saying, "I'll believe it when I see it"?
Right.
Yeah, well, here it is.
Here it is.
Like, are they literally breaking ground and going vertical yet? No. But the fact that you have the entire project team here on site and this project is done to where they literally just have to build it now, that is what they're saying. That's what they're saying. The research trips were done long ago. The plans are literally done. Now they just construct what they have on paper. That's what we've been asking for the last 5 years. Now they're doing it and people are saying it's stupid. That infuriates me. I rarely ever get this animated or this passionate. But when Josh DeMario comes out on stage and says, we are doing this, it'll be done within 5 years, and people still find a way to be negative, what do you want? Do you want to go over to Epic Universe when a rainstorm happens in Florida and all the rides are down all day? Is that what you want? We'll go have fun.
Yeah, right. Well said. And that's why it's very frustrating, Drew, because it's good to be critical. It's good to have that, that critical eye, but a lot of times the fandom gets ridiculous about it. And then Disney's like, you know what? How can we take these people seriously? They don't like anything. And eventually they're just going to chew us out completely and just be right. I mean, that's what's frustrating.
Just about to say, like, I'm not going to reveal names here, but I know that there's been some new people at Imagineering lately who have been trying to connect with the audiences more by doing this more personal content with Imagineering. And then, like, whenever they did that video inside the test track, people were commenting on how this Imagineer's appearance looked. I'm like, that's just disgusting behavior. Like, this person is obviously talented to be in the position they're in. You guys aren't going to accept the fact that we're getting a new version of Test Track. Isn't that awesome? Because the old Test Track was so unimpressive. There was nothing impressive about the old Test Track, right? Now we're getting a new one and people are focused on how the Imagineer looks and what they're saying. Obviously, they're not going to reveal the entire ride a year in advance. Let's be realistic here. I don't know, man. I feel like social media, like you talked about it earlier, George, but with how people's attention spans are so short now. And I know it might sound hypocritical of us because we're on social media all the time, but we also don't use social media like that, right? Like, we understand how to use social media and we purposely use it positively to try to get some positivity out into the world. But it's just like when they're doing what they're saying they're going to do and people are still cynical about it. Do you guys actually want these things, or do you just want to react and complain about it because people react to it?
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
And if you have genuine criticisms, right, like Magical Express leaving or the price of Lightning Lane and Multipass, that's one thing. I'm not saying that everyone is just doing things to get reactions. I just feel that there is this overwhelming negativity constantly to where no matter what this company does, it feels like that people are never going to accept the fact that over these next 10 years, they're actually spending $30 billion. I don't know.
Oh, 100%. I'm going to bring up a great tweet from a friend of all of ours, Victoria. She says here, honestly, I'm so over. It's related to what we're talking about now. Yeah. Honestly, I'm so over people in this fandom at their big ages, whining and complaining every time there's a damn park change. It's draining and unproductive. At this point, go to a museum. That's kind of what we're saying. Every single thing, Drew, every single thing, there is a complaint about it. It's like, it's exhausting.
Yeah. And like, I guess, we started off this conversation with, like Haunted Mansion on Disneyland. Like, me personally, also kind of to add to what we talked about, I really don't love how that store turned out at all. Like, I don't like that store. I'm kind of like, what is this? But am I going to go on Twitter and complain for months about a store that I'm never going to step foot into? Probably no. I'm just not going to go spend money at that store, and I'm not going to spend time there because I don't like it. I will choose to experience the things that I like. And I'm sure that there's things that Disney, like another thing, like Luminous, The Symphony of Us, the same team that worked on Luminous worked on Harmonious. Harmonious is my favorite show that Disney's ever done, but Luminous is my least favorite show that Disney's ever done. Am I ever going to dislike the live entertainment team that worked on that show because I don't like Luminous? No, I'm just not going to go watch Luminous. You know what I mean? Like, it's just everyone wants to throw their thoughts out there rather than just be like mature about it.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah,
no, 100%. I 100% agree with you on that. And I'm glad we're talking about this because there isn't enough, I think, Drew, like in our like community or space.
Barely even enough community at this point. It's sad.
It's just not enough inward self-awareness, Yeah.
And that's one thing about me is I will be extremely self-aware. Like, I'm extremely self-aware of the fact that I'm usually positive towards these things and the way that I share information. But that's because there's so much negativity that I'm driven to be more positive because I don't want to contribute to this negativity every single day. right? And also the fact that I'm extremely fortunate to be at these parks so often that I'll see these little magical moments, which I've tried to start to share more recently. Like I recently posted about how Wendell, one of the country bears, ran over from country bears to wave to us on the riverboat, right? If I wasn't there in that moment and I don't share that, well, that's one less positive thing on the internet for the day. So the
Right.
more positive little moments that I can share, and like I'll see little kids having a blast with their parents sometimes, but obviously I'm not going to record a kid with their family. I'll just overhear it and I'll smile. Like one day when I was on the bridge watching Tiana shortly after it opened, kind of just taking it all in and appreciating it. After the drop happened, there was this kid in row 1, and he practically stood up in the log and he was like, "That was awesome."
Yeah.
But if I posted that on X, people would say, "You're lying, you're shilling for Disney. You love Tiana's. Why would I believe this?" Right? When I was on the monorail a couple of weeks ago, there was this little girl in a stroller and her mom looking at the castle as we pulled up today, and she was pointing, "There's the castle." And the mom was like, "Yeah, we're gonna go. We're getting off the monorail. We're gonna go see that right now." And this little girl was just so ecstatic to see the castle before she'd even stepped foot in Magic Kingdom, right? But you go on Twitter, Disney's lost all of its magic. If you actually get out into the real world and see it, and yes, I understand that that's one of the issues that people have is how expensive Disney is these days. But right now, the NFL playoffs are happening. Some of these tickets are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and these people will go out and tailgate and drop hundreds of dollars on jerseys and paint their faces, right? But Disney adults are the problem. No, what about the rest of the world, going and dropping $1,000 on Taylor Swift tickets or sports events,
Thank you.
And I'm a massive Dodgers fan. Like I love sports. Don't get me wrong. I'm not judging these people, but it's not just Disney adults, and Disney's not always the problem.
If you look at how much it is to go just to a single concert, depending on where you're sitting, if you want to buy merchandise, food, drinks, whatever, if you get a hotel, if you travel to the location, add all that up, I guarantee you it would be probably more than what you would spend a day at Disney. It's just because people see Disney as this place where it's like, well, everybody needs to go, so it should be affordable for everyone to go. But unfortunately, in times as things grow, but people want all this new stuff. Where do they think the money's going to come from? Yeah, okay, they could make elaborate new things, expand the parks and everything, but then it's like, okay, well, how do they make their money back? It's like it has to come from somewhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
It's not that we don't want these kids and families that aren't able to go to not go. We want these people to be able to go. But
I mean, me personally, I don't want them, but
hey, I'm trying to be politically correct here. But like when it's like these no other company is held to the standard that Disney is, and I respect that and appreciate that in a sense. But I would argue that right now these parks are at the best point that they have ever been. I know that that's a very bold statement to make, but I almost feel like this is something that I've talked about a little bit before in the past. But I talked to Josh tomorrow in person for like 5 minutes at IAAPA in 2021. IAAPA is this massive theme park expo out here in Orlando. And at the time, he was doing a lunch and learn for 2 hours. I'll never forget it. I got out of my Uber at the time to walk in, go up the escalator because I wanted to get a front row seat to watch Josh talk. 5 feet to my left, there's Josh tomorrow getting out of his van with his team. We're going up the escalators at the same time. We walk in the doors and say, "Hey, Mr. Tomorrow, I saw you at Magic Kingdom a couple months ago. How are you?" He's like, "Do you know where to go? I've never been here before." I'm like, "Yeah, just up here at this theater." So we walked up there and I just waited, expecting him to go back and prepare. And like 30 minutes later, after the line had formed to get in, he walked up to me personally and he said, "Are you going to be at Destination D23 this weekend?
Wow.
That's where all the news is going to be. And I think you'd like to be there." And I said, "Yeah, I'd love to be there. I'll be there. I look forward to seeing everything." And then he proceeded to announce that Toontown was being reimagined at that thing. So he kind of threw me off a little bit. But like these people, they're not evil. Like, yes, Josh is going to have to make some very hard decisions to remove, Muppets and Tom Sawyer and the Rivers of America.
Right.
But at the same time, Disney is also going to be making so many more millions of memories by adding these new attractions, right? Magic Kingdom is getting 4 new attractions, 2 in Villains, 2 in Cars. And it's not just the attractions, it's 2 brand new environments, 2 brand new themes. And there's so many possibilities here with Halloween and Christmas, especially with Villains and Halloween, to tell stories that have never been told before. So it's not like Disney is just replacing Tom Sawyer Island and the Rivers of America and they're putting trees there and we're losing the area forever. We're actually going to be able to go into parts of Magic Kingdom that we've never been able to walk into before. Right. And a Monsters Inc. coaster is going to take us into the world of Monsters Inc. for the first time ever. Like, yes, it hurts to say goodbye to these things because we literally experience them and we make these memories, and that's a very strong feeling. But Josh is literally investing billions
Well, yeah, and you're right. And all we
I
heard,
don't know what this, like, I'm literally speechless. Like, I feel like everyone's so focused on the current and what the memories that they have now, rather than I'm like, yeah, am I going to be emotional when Tom Sawyer Island, the Rivers of America closes? Absolutely. I love that riverboat with a strong passion. But, you know, it's going to be a bittersweet feeling knowing that I'm going to be at Magic Kingdom hundreds of times getting to document this construction. And then one day I'll get to be watching these cars whiz around and seeing these kids have a blast with their parents. And then getting to go and see these villains walking around, making memories with these kids. That is what Disney's all about. Right now, these kids aren't making any memories on the riverboat or Tom Sawyer Island. I am not lying when I say this. I swear to the Lord on my life when I say this. I was at Magic Kingdom a week ago. I was on Tom Sawyer Island. The mom and the dad said this island was so cool. I am not exaggerating. The kid said, I would have rather gone on Tron once than be on this island. And in that moment, I knew exactly why that this island is being replaced. These 100%. Kids are going to love cars and these characters and villains, and that's making memories for them. So you have to take yourself out of the moment.
Those parents need to give that kid a raise on his allowance.
well, you're absolutely right, Drew. And here's the thing, too, is like all we've heard from fans, when is Disney going to answer to Universal's Epic Universe? When are they actually going to turbocharge these parks? And then the minute they announce stuff and the minute they start to turbocharge, then the complaints come in.
Like, well, don't do that anymore. Don't do that anymore.
The complaints came literally walking out of the Honda Center. Like social media was blowing up already.
We're not even out the parking lot yet, and it was already like the complaints were coming in like crazy. I'm like, everyone wanted them to do something. You've all been complaining they're not reacting to Epic Universe, they're not taking it seriously. Now they're taking it seriously, and now we're going to bitch and moan about, well, I don't want that. Oh, I don't want it there.
So I would ask them, so what do you want? They'd be like, well, I don't know, don't replace it. Well, it's going to go at some point, so you better accept that, right?
It's frustrating.
Like, I know that
these are people that either have never stepped foot into a Disney park or haven't in how many years. They probably went in like the late 80s, early 90s when tickets were like cheaper than now, and they're comparing it to that. Or they're the people that complain about what is already there, and then when they decide to close it, they'll be the first in line. Like the line will be out the wazoo for it. You know, people I mean, yes, comparing Dinosaur to Indiana Jones, yes, that's like, you know, a great grand steak to a McDouble. I get it, you know, but I still enjoy Dinosaur to an extent. Dinosaur. You know, I grew up, you know, riding Dinosaur, but I'm very excited to see what the new Indiana Jones is going to be. But then people were complaining about Dinosaur, but those same people will be there the final day when it's closing. And then they'll still complain about, oh, well, we're gonna get Indiana Jones. Is it a carbon copy? Oh, it's brand new. What does it have to do with animals? It's like no matter what, but yet they'll be in line for it opening day.
Yeah. Well, who's going to be the one renewing their annual pass saying, "Oh, Indiana Jones merchandise. Let me go buy that." Or I saw a video yesterday from Festival of the Arts. People were lining up for this Figment popcorn bucket. I'm like, which ones have you been complaining? But will show up and drop $30 on some popcorn, huh?
Right.
It's just, and that's why it's like, sometimes I was kind of like, does Disney care what we think? But sometimes I'm like, why would they? When some people, it kind of ties into what we were saying with the Haunted Mansion earlier. You can't make everyone happy, right? No. So at what point are these business leaders who are well known in their fields and are in these positions for a reason, at what point are they going to make the decisions because they know what decision to make? Like, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes at Imagineering. And the closest we've ever got are the Blue Sky pitches. People always ask for Imagineering access. The one time we got it, people complained.
Oh my God. Every time. I know.
I made a YouTube video on my channel last year talking about, I was recording a video in front of Big Thunder on Tom Sawyer Island. And I said, I think this is going to be affected with these plans and how kind of like this is all happening, right? Josh tomorrow, I think I've watched that presentation so many times. I think the exact quote is, I want to be clear with everybody though. I am having very serious discussions. Oh, I think it was, I want to be clear with everybody though. We are not up here daydreaming. We are having very serious discussions with our teams about the future of our parks and experiences. That was the first thing the man said because he wanted to set this tone of, this isn't just for fun. And people were like, well, if it's not going to happen, why are you telling me about it? They're telling us what they're thinking of doing for the first time in the history of this company, and you're going to complain?
It's crazy.
I do wish though the approach that they would take on it is I wish that they would do like the park showcase for like the actual official announcements, and then
that's totally fair though.
And then have a separate
Blue Sky
presentation for Blue Sky.
Yeah,
I would love both of them. I think they would be phenomenal because I love digging into that stuff.
Yeah.
But at least I would know like whatever one I'm walking into, it's like, okay, this is the concrete stuff that we're getting, or this is the stuff that may be but may not be. You know?
Yeah, that's fair.
It's like if Josh had gone up on stage and just started talking about concepts without that premise of we are doing this, then I'd understand some of the feedback more. And what you said is totally valid. You know, if people had that expectation, maybe that it wouldn't have been received so badly. But like, I loved the Blue Sky ideas because we saw this very rare moment where we saw an idea go from Moana and Zootopia to Bruce Vaughan returning to Imagineering, to getting a core story with originality, to getting well thought out IPs with Encanto and Indiana Jones. Before, we would have never seen that story being told within a story, if that makes sense. Like, we saw the story from the original concept to now what is happening with construction starting. I think that that's awesome that they gave the fans the access to that, but the fans didn't appreciate that. So if they never do it again and we lose that because people don't like it, that sucks.
Yeah. It's confusing. It's dizzying because one moment the fans are asking for something, and then when the fans get something, then they complain about getting something that they wanted previously. And it's like, if I'm Disney, I'm going, I don't know what these people want, you know? I mean, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Yeah. But we got this Drew guy here.
Who is this kid? It's so funny. This is like a perfect. I'll give you guys a little bit of a behind the scenes of what I do with my content. So
sure.
If you see on the GMA thing right here, it says 10:18 a.m. That's because I'm in the East Coast. But I got this clip up in 4 minutes. Like, I was quick with this. It was like a 3-minute segment, and then I trimmed out this one little segment, typed it out, and got it up in like 3 minutes. I was like, bam, that was quick. But I just think it's funny that, like, you can see when I recorded it, it even switched to 10:19 there, and then 3 minutes later, I had the tweet up. Oh man, the things I make myself do for content. It's
well, we appreciate it. And if you're at home, if you are not following Drew on X, you have got to. And also Instagram and his YouTube channel. I'll be linking everything down below. Good Morning America revealed an exclusive first look at Disney Starlight Dream the Night Away, the all-new nighttime parade debuting in the Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World this summer, which is going to be awesome. I'm super excited. Disney World is finally getting a nighttime spectacular after all these years. It says here, the Blue Fairy will lead the parade, just like the Main Street Electrical Parade. That's pretty cool. Weaving magic through each float and every costume. Drew, thoughts on this? I love the idea of this coming to Disney World.
And just like, again, right? I saw people. I think there's a comment here on this tweet itself, where a guy was saying, "This is so unprofessional. Disney's reveals are horrible now." My man, they just revealed a first look at a nighttime parade that people have been asking for nearly a decade on Saturday when people are off work, and you're gonna complain. Okay. When do we ever see cameras in a costuming department for a new nighttime parade? Never.
Exactly.
Ever. Is there a lot showed here? No. But what my takeaway from this isn't, I wish I got more. My takeaway is there's people using their talents and skills to handcraft every single one of these outfits. And these aren't just outfits. These outfits are going to light up in sync to the music. And you're going to complain? Like, look at all these people in this room. Are you able to pause it at the beginning of this clip here?
Yeah, I got you. At the beginning,
at the very
right
beginning,
here.
There
you go.
Look at that. There's artistry within artistry, and you're gonna say that this reveals horrible?
Yeah, it's wild.
Do you expect them to reveal the entire parade 4 or 5 months before it debut? Like, what?
Well, and then if they did that, they would complain that they're revealing everything online.
Exactly. But it's just like every single one of these people has a story. All these cast members have a story of how they got to this position and how they're adding their touch of magic to a parade about magic.
Right.
I love this stuff. It's just so cool.
I mean, literally, I'm to the point where I know this is going to sound horrible of me, but there's like just times where I hear people complain, like not even normal complain, but like complain about like the dumbest, smallest things that they like insignificant, where it's like literally I just turn around and I'm just like, shut up. Like, please. Like I don't understand it. I don't get it. You know, you're allowed to have your opinion. You're allowed to voice that opinion. But when it becomes kind of like a habit that it's like no matter what it is, you have to find the negativity in something or look at the glass half empty instead of half full. Look at what Walt Disney endured to actually get this company to where it is today.
Right.
A lot of risk, a lot of like people even back then said, you know, you're nuts. You know, you're crazy. How can you do this? Did he care? No. And look what came of it.
Hey, George, people call me nuts all the time. Do I care? No.
I mean, to be fair, all three of us are nuts, but that's okay. We accept that. All right?
Exactly.
We're self-aware of that, all right?
Exactly. And look right here. And I'm not, I'm not picking on anybody, but like right at the top, it's right here.
Yeah.
It's
like if you're going to talk about the budget for this parade, well, let's look at the physical things that we have been shown. And that was today, right? They are saying that every single one of these floats has hand-done custom embroidery, and that every single one of them is going to light up with brand new technology to the music. Nothing about that is cheap, done rushed, and nothing about that is bad. So that here's a perfect. I'm sorry, I'm going to call out Joseph here, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to say that, and also, who is he to say what the budget is? Does Joseph know Bruce Vaughn and know what the budget is? Show me the budget. Show me the paper. Tell me what the budget is.
Do we even know what's all entailed with this?
No, we don't know half the
floats. We know absolutely nothing.
Yeah. It will look better on paper. Yeah, well, I invite you to come out to Magic Kingdom, and when people are crying because of how beautiful this parade is, then tell me that it sucks. All right, tell me that to my face. It's like this is beautiful right here. Let's talk about the positive, right? The fact that Mary Blair is the inspiration for this finale float. Look at how gorgeous this float is. Like, that is stunning. We've got 4 couples here on a single float, and even in the center there, I'm assuming that like the water of this fountain is going to be sparkling lights. Like, I could just picture how gorgeous that is, and even like these like circular structures, if those kind of like, I think that concept art is never going to tell a full story, but my hope is that since this parade is about starlight and stars, if the lights kind of follow the pattern of this, it would look like a shooting star, if that makes sense.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Instead of it being lit up constantly like the concept art shows, if there's moments where it kind of speeds up and then tails off, it would look like a star shooting off in the sky on each side, along with the fountain. Then you have the performers and their talents. You could talk for 30 minutes about every single float in this parade, but I'm sorry, Joseph, you think that it looks better on paper. LOL. Nothing's funny about this. It's actually sad.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I completely agree with you on that, Drew. And here's the thing, look, Disney is a massive, mega multinational corporation, right? And despite that fact that it's a very corporate entity, they are still dipping into the company's history and modeling this float after Disney legend Mary Blair. They don't have to do any of that. That's for the fans. That's awesome. That's for the nerds like us that love this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. We have to give them credit where it's due. Applaud them when they do the good. I know it's trendy just to like crap on everything that they do.
Disney sucks, lol.
Yeah, Disney sucks.
If someone takes that out of context, I'm not gonna like you.
Yeah, Big Mouth's bad. 24/7. I know that's like the hip thing to do, but hey, look, we should applaud them when they do the good thing, because you know what? We'll get more of the good stuff.
Yeah, this parade. Like, they publicly have posted about it. This isn't secret. This is not off the record. 2 of the people that are working on this parade, I'm not going to say their names just because I don't know if they want me to, even though it's public, but they worked on Happily Ever After. Like, this live entertainment team, it's not a massive team. They all are very cohesively working together on making this thing the best possible thing possible. And they've worked on arguably the most loved nighttime show Disney has ever done. Why wouldn't it be incredible?
Exactly.
And every single piece of art that we've seen, it all carries the same motif. This like the brushstrokes of the lines in it. It looks very cloud-like, and you even see the clouds in the art here. But I don't know. I already know that this is going to be a core memory.
But then you'd have the people when they see the float, they'd be like, "Oh, where's the clouds surrounding it? I don't see any of the clouds." Like, that's the art rendering.
Yeah, like you can see the brushstrokes and like the light. I don't know how to describe it, but there's this light feel to it, right? Like there's these lines aren't hard; they're very airy. I think airy is
Yes.
the right word here. You can just see that even like Cinderella and Prince Charming. I think if you go back to the concept art, I think they're on this float. No, yeah, they're there. So it's like you even have these characters on the float that's being inspired by them, and just seeing this airy look and these light colors, it just feels very dreamy. And I think that that's where we get the name from. You
Yeah.
know, dream. I almost wonder if in a meeting there was like this feels dreamy, and they're like add that to the name. You know, but yeah, like
Love
the
it.
people I know personally, these two people, I've talked to them in person before. I have good relationships with them. They're very passionate about what they do, and you know, I think sometimes with Disney, people fear that there's like too many people touching something. So it's like, is there a core idea here? With this live entertainment team, the reason that we're seeing this parade look so damn good, and the reason it's going to be so damn good, is this is a team working together, and they know what they're doing. This parade's going to blow people away, and it is going to, I think, make national headlines.
Well, and that's
honestly.
the other thing too. When you spewed out negativity or what have you over something that you just don't know what you're talking about, it's like make sure that you have the facts before you do so. Like for instance, Drew, you said you know these people who worked on the parade personally. You have a connection to that you know people who are passionate of what they do, they love what they do. That is the core connection of what they want to give out to the parade, as to oppose of somebody that's just walking in and looking at a piece of concept art and saying, oh, that looks cheap, what's the budget of this, or well, okay, it's easier said to say that, but when you have someone like yourself who knows personally these people who are working on this stuff, it's a completely different perspective
Right.
than just making
And
false accusations.
I understand that is a privilege. Like I know that because I live local and get to go to the parks, that's why I have these relationships with these people.
Right.
I know that like not everyone gets to have that. You know, I understand that is an entitlement in a sense.
But you have the way of kind of expressing in the sense of where you don't know who is working on this stuff. So it's like rather than call judgment upon these people who are working hard on this stuff, but you do have the privilege of knowing these people, and it's like good for you because you're voicing it out to say, you know what, there are people in this company that care and they want to create magic for guests day in and day out. And I think if people were to believe in that more often than what they are now, then you wouldn't have to know whether or not who is working on it for them to actually hear it coming from their mouths to say, oh yeah, well, we enjoy what we do. You know, it should automatically give you that.
It's not a job for them; it's a passion for them that pays them. Also, the fact that like I mentioned with Happily Ever After, their resumes speak for themselves. You know, it's not like I'm saying they worked on something in some random theme park that you've never heard of, and then they just got brought into Disney, and now they're working on this. Like, one of the guys I know, he also worked on some of the projections, like with the new updated Phantasmic. So like they have to take these scenes and then incorporate them. They're not just like pulling a clip from the movie and then throwing it on a water projection. Like there's a lot of work here with pulling this animation and making it work to where it fits these new scenes. And the resume speaks for itself, from Happily Ever After to even with Disney Enchantment. I know a lot of people didn't like Enchantment, but the projection quality was phenomenal. Sync to the music and the fireworks. Like if you're looking at the quality of the product itself, everything they've ever done, even something as simple as the Tree of Life projection for Mufasa the Lion King recently, that was even done very well. So their resume speaks for themselves. That's not just me being biased because, oh, they're my friends, I don't want to be mean about them. The reason why I originally started to enjoy their work and the reason why I first walked up to them in the parks that led to this relationship is because of their resume, right? I wasn't friends with them before I found out that they worked at Imagineering. I walked up to him at Cold Stone Ice Cream in my city one day because I recognized him because I loved Enchantment so much. So the reason why I ever even wanted to reach out and talk to them in person is because of their work. It's not the other way around.
All right. Well said.
That's also something important to know there. You know, like he was just getting ice cream with his family at Cold Stone. And I'm like, dude, I love Enchantment so much. That show makes me so happy. And he's like, you just made my entire day. And then I just kept in touch with him. And I messaged him earlier. I'm like, congrats on this reveal. He's like, we're working hard on it. So it's like when I try to take myself out of it sometimes, but at the same time I can't because I'm so passionate about it.
It really is true that Cold Stone could bring people together.
There you go.
Yeah,
It absolutely does.
I'll never forget that one, man. He's just a great guy, and I can't wait for them to get to talk about this parade. You know, once it's revealed, we haven't even seen these floats yet, which is exciting. It's very exciting.
Yeah. Oh, it's awesome. It looks beautiful. I love what we're seeing so far with that with the handmade costumes, the Mary Blair influences. They're hitting all the right marks.
Good
right
job, live entertainment. Good job.
Exactly. Well said,
Which
Mr.
really, sorry, before you move into this, which
Yeah.
isn't that what a lot of people are even begging for anyway? Is live entertainment, more stuff in the park. So
Yes.
Myself included. I'm only 22, but as I get older, I learn to appreciate the performers and the story that they're telling with their performance within the story of the show, if that makes sense. Like, just from the facial expressions that they're making and the way that they're moving with their bodies can tell a story within the overall story. So it's fascinating. But yeah, like you said, George, people do want this. Now we're getting it. So don't complain.
Exactly.
And speaking of live entertainment, go ahead, Mr. Uchi.
There we go. We got Good Morning America shared an exclusive look at Disney villains Unfairly Ever After, debuting at Disney's Hollywood Studios this summer. Cruella de Vil, Captain Hook, and Maleficent will take center stage, and other Disney villains will appear through the magic mirrors. Really, really cool. We got a little video here too for it. Drew, thoughts on this? Interesting.
Yeah. So again, like we've been talking about, those people also are working on this. Now, just to be clear, the people that we're seeing in the videos here, these are not the people that I know. But again, it's a team. You know, they all have their talents. But what I love about this is that they're actually showing them working on this concept art. Like, this is literally them in action, working like Luke. For example, I've never met Luke. I didn't know that Luke existed until I saw this video. But the fact that Luke got to talk about this art that they're making for this show, I love that. You know, it gives us something new to be excited about, while also highlighting the people making these things a reality, which I think is super cool. These things don't just spawn in. This is a roller coaster tycoon where you just plop it down. You know, there's like also the Disney reel today. There's like they've been working on the show for 2 years, almost 2 years, and it might be like what, a 30-minute long show at most.
Wow.
So it's really cool, and I think that this is a really cool way to incorporate, you know, this new technology, you know, however they do that through the whatever technology they're going to be using. And then also the physical performances. You know, we know that we're going to have Cruella, Captain Hook, and Maleficent. But can you go to the beginning of this, or wherever the concept art is? There's 2 more villains that are going to be, it's Hades and Jafar are also. So if you go to the beginning here and make that, you can see the ones that are on the screens, and then you can see the ones that are appearing live on stage. So you can see in the middle, right, you have Captain Hook, Cruella, and Maleficent all on the stage there. But just today, they also revealed that Hades and Jafar are also up above them physically. So you have 5 performers actually there, directly, you know, interacting with the audience. And then you're also going to have all this incredible digital media around us. And I think that this show is going to be 100 times better than I ever expected, just looking at this one finale, you know, kind of. I feel like this is also kind of the setup for Villains Land. We know that all the villains in Villains Land are going to be appearing together through that spell. Well, they're all appearing here through the magical mirrors. It's a very similar core idea, and this is a great teaser for what's to come.
And that was one of my theories for the Villains Land e-ticket, where my speculation, and this is based on nothing, just kind of my own kind of theory, is that the magic mirror will play a big part in that e-ticket, where
I hope so.
Right, your vehicles maybe go through the magic mirror and into each villain's area or something, and that's kind of like the device that gets you from villain to villain, which would be kind of cool. Yeah,
it'd be awesome.
I would absolutely love, like, even in this show, like maybe part of the finale, they give us like a little hint or a teaser. You know, it's like, you know, well, we'll be around, or we're coming back in a big way, or something like that, to kind of play nod to that this isn't just the end of the Disney villains.
Yeah.
Yeah, they saw it. Look, Drew, you mentioned earlier on in the show. I mean, they saw the applause the Villains Land got at that D23 a couple years ago, and they're giving us more villains. They're listening.
Well, and if you saw someone surfing the crowd with their shirt off that had villains spray painted across their chest, it was me.
That was you, huh? Yeah, to go figure.
Should I ask Grok to make that?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, exciting stuff here. Hollywood Studios getting a great villain show, and we got Mr. Five Fires down here. Shout out to Mondo.
Mondo's a really good guy. He's just a good dude, man.
Absolutely. And we got, speaking of good guys, we got Mr. Drew the Disney Dude over here with Good, Good Morning America.
I really did post a lot today, man. Jeez.
Good Morning America revealed rehearsals are underway for The Little Mermaid: A Musical Adventure, debuting at Disney's Hollywood Studios this summer. I have to say, on a side note, I just have a huge soft spot for Little Mermaid, just because, I don't know, I'm a huge Howard Ashman fanboy. I love Howard Ashman. I love what he did for Disney. An incredible human being, genius, absolutely. And every time I even see Little Mermaid, I think of him and his work. So awesome to see any Little Mermaid stuff. I'm happy. It says here, the reimagined production will feature all new sets, a vibrant cast of puppets, live performers, and more to bring the sea to life.
This is a moment in history. TikTok just went down.
Oh, did it? Oh, hold on one second. Oh. Unavailable.
It'll be back, though. This won't last for long. I know that for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I completely got off topic here.
No, that's wild. I'm glad you said that. That's absolutely wild.
We just caught this live.
That is absolutely crazy.
It's like really quick. It's like, where were you the day that TikTok temporarily went down? Oh, we're recording with Drew the Disney Dude.
There we are.
Everyone's favorite person. No, just kidding.
There we go. What do you think, Drew? This show, that what they're showing us, you feel it's kind of cool. It kind of reminds me of like what's that show on Disney Channel?
In the Big Blue House.
Yes, thank you. Very reminiscent of something like that, and that's not a bad thing. It's not.
I love it. Yeah, it's I mean, I think like the thing here that I would kind of give feedback on is I feel like this was very clearly an attempt to bolster the summer roster when we should have had this in fall.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, I guess that this could kind of tie into me being a local, and not everyone has that privilege to be local. But I'm like, I know I'm going to see it eventually anyway when it debuts, So I guess that's just me being very open and honest. But yeah, this is clearly, hey, let's push this to summer so it looks better for our roster. But the fact that we are getting all new sets, all new puppets, and new songs here. We're getting Kiss the Girl and Daughters of Triton for the first time. So yes, well, it has taken a while, and it's just a new reimagined version of a show that's been around. It's improved.
Yeah.
So I'm not against it by any means. And it's I also think that this is a perfect thing to, if it's good enough to where more people are going to watch it now compared to the old version, well, that's going to matter more than ever. Well, we have capacity down for Muppets, both Muppets things, right? These shows are going to do a lot of capacity carrying for this time where Rock and Roller Coaster's down and Muppets Courtyard's down, and where Hollywood Studios is going to go through that time where it's going to take a hit. But in the long term, Studios is going to be so, and I think Studios is going to see so much more investment. I think that we're going to lose backlot, indie, all that area is going to be something new eventually too. So we'll see.
Yeah, they're going to move away from that, like that studio not studio, but like that backlotty vibe. Even Universal's moving away from that in a lot of ways, So
yeah, this is just the start. But I think that you kind of made me just think of something interesting, right? You can move away from the backlot while also kind of telling it in a way with these live productions, because you're kind of showing how things are done with the performers and the people actually telling the stories. But at the same time, it follows that new guideline that Disney's going by, is we want to take you into the movies.
Right.
They are taking us into the movies with this new show and the Disney Villains show, but it's in a much more Hollywood-esque way with a live production. So I think that that's kind of a cool essence of what the park was originally, while also following this new story in a way.
Yeah, it's a good exactly. It's a great little compromise there, and it's funny. The George, correct me if I'm wrong. The Frozen show is like right across the way from this thing, right?
Yeah, it was in the old building that used to hold the American Idol experience. So it's like right across the way from the entranceway to where Animation Courtyard is.
Okay,
Which, so but the Frozen, I can't believe like how much that I actually enjoy that show.
I was just gonna say that
it's so good. I
love it. This guy took me, Drew. I've only been to Walt Disney World one time. This guy took me to that show. I was like, I love the movie, but I didn't know if I would like the show.
It is a gem of a show.
Amazing. I absolutely loved it.
I've probably, not to cut you off, just a quick thought.
You're good.
I've probably seen that show over 15 times, and I've heard a new joke every single time. It's that good.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible. I was expecting like kind of like generic kind of Disney stage show, and it was not that. It really blew my mind. Loved it. Absolutely. It's still there, right? We still have it.
It's still there, yeah. So
okay,
you're gonna have Indiana Jones. You're gonna have Beauty and the Beast. You're gonna have Frozen, Villains, in Little Mermaid, all in one park. That's not even including Tower of Terror, Muppets Rock and Roller Coaster, Monsters Inc. Roller Coaster, Rise of the Resistance, Slinky Dog Dash. This park is going to be stacked. You just got to make it a few years. But again, if you open your mind up and look at the big picture, think about how exciting that is, right? You have all these incredible live productions. Some of those might go sooner than later. And then you have all these incredible attractions all in one park, and that's just 1/4 of Walt Disney World. That's not including the resorts or the transportation. It's just like, oh, this place is insane if you really think about it. The fact that Walt Disney World operates every day is a miracle. I could talk to you guys about that for an hour.
Oh, it's like its own city. I mean, I've only gone one time. I was so impressed because it's such a different experience than Disneyland Resort. Yeah. It's a whole different animal and vibe, and it's just so much more than the theme parks. Yeah. Yeah, it's wild. It's wild.
It's wild, and it's an animal. Yes, you are correct. That would
be Drew, what's your favorite park at Walt Disney World?
Man, this one's changed a lot over the years. So back when the parks first reopened in 2020, Studios was, because I was obsessed with Runaway Railway.
Okay.
I've been on Runaway Railway almost 300 times. And that's how that ride is. And just Toy Story Mania and learning how to get 500,000 points. And then 2024, it was Magic Kingdom because I was there with Tiana so much, but I don't know. I feel like the most beautiful park that I've gained a lot of appreciation for in more recent years that I would have not have said before is Animal Kingdom. I love Animal Kingdom a lot more now than I did when I was a little bit younger. You guys know Sean ranking the mouse, right?
Oh,
he always used to poke fun at me that I didn't like Animal Kingdom, but now I've come around to it. But yeah, I don't know if I have a favorite anymore because when I go into Epcot, you have the beautiful views of World Showcase Lagoon, and the vibes are just different. And then when I go to Magic Kingdom, I have Tiana's and my personal attachment to that. And when I go to Hollywood Studios, I have Runaway Railway. When I go to Animal Kingdom, I have Tropical America. So it's now that I've kind of started following everything, I have such a love for these parks in unique ways. But as of right now, I guess when I'm talking to you, it would be Magic Kingdom because I'll be spending more time there, saying goodbye to Tom Sawyer Island and the Rivers of America and seeing this transformation underway, and the fact that New Fantasyland and Seven Dwarfs Mine Train were the first projects that I followed. I don't know if it would show well on camera, but earlier I just found a video that my dad recorded of me on March 15th, 2014, 11 years ago. Wow. This was the day that the walls came down at Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, and I was videoing the minecart testing. You can see my jaw drop there. So literally 11 years ago, when I was a little baby, I was watching the minecarts. It was by. We were on vacation when the walls came down, and I was literally dancing. I was so happy.
Oh my god, that's great!
But just I love Magic Kingdom just because of the personal attachments, and as these new things evolve. When I was a kid, I was following people sharing it. Now I'm going to be the one sharing that, and that's just full circle moment if I've ever seen one. So awesome. As of right now, it's Magic Kingdom, but I really love all four.
Now, speaking of Magic Kingdom, before we go, I want to ask you this water management thing.
You just took the words right out of my mouth. That's
there we go. There we go. What say you? Are they going to approve this, or do you think we're going to have to go back again and do it again?
So what day are you airing this? Because is this going up really soon?
Well, it's going to go for members tonight, but it'll be up for everybody tomorrow, Sunday.
Okay, so this video will be up within the 30-day window. So I'll give the backstory here. So like we've been talking about, in August, Disney announced, Cars, Villains replacing Rivers, Tom Sawyer, Liberty Bell, all that, right? Disney then filed the permits for how this is going to affect, the water management levels and the wildlife in the area, because this is a big part of Magic Kingdom. This is a good chunk. It's 12 acres. And Florida was what you guys filed is not sufficient enough for us to say, hey, go ahead with this plan. This is going to be okay for nature and everything. Disney then said, hey, we need a little bit more time to get this together. They then filed that updated plan. I want to get the date right here. I believe it was on December 20th. Okay, December 20th of 2024, Disney filed their updated plan to fill in the Rivers of America and Tom Sawyer Island. And the state of Florida has 30 days after December 20th. That's coming up right now. So if the state of Florida, I'm going to be waking up early these next couple of days, I'm expecting this to drop. If the state of Florida files a notice of commencement or something and says, you guys are good to go, that gives Disney the green light to announce the closing date for Tom Sawyer Island in the Rivers of America whenever they want to. And part of me has been thinking when they're saying construction is starting in early 2025, that was their original goal in August to get this going now. What does early 2025 mean? Because none of us were expecting Dinosaur to stay open until 2026 when they said Tropical America's construction was starting now, right?
Right.
So part of me was kind of thinking, like, could they start construction for these gravel laydown yards to get all the materials together and all the cranes and clearing some, like they have to clear a lot of trees and then bring in all the equipment. This is a massive project. So my thought was, could they be doing off-site work in early 2025, and that's considered construction, which it would be, but to where we see Tom Sawyer and Rivers of America stay open. But when I was rereading the articles, they're saying that they want this work to be revving into high gear. And by revving into high gear, to me, that means closing Tom Sawyer Island and the Rivers of America sooner than later. That's how I
Yeah.
read it, right? Like, work revving into high gear is all of it at once. And I also believe that's a part of why management approved this Big Thunder refurbishment, because having Big Thunder Mountain down frees up that entire area to maybe get some of those walkways ready, or just infrastructure around that entire part of the park ready. So I think that this permit's going to be approved. Obviously, that hasn't happened yet when we're recording this. I'll post that on my Twitter, so follow me over there if you guys aren't. If you guys aren't following me at this point, I don't think you guys like me, and if you're watching, then I don't get that either. But yeah, I'm gonna post. I usually don't dive into that stuff, but this is significant because this literally starts Magic Kingdom's transformation when that's approved. So I think that when they say work revving into high gear, I think that once they have the green light from the state of Florida, any point after, they could literally say, yeah, I think they'll give about a month heads up for Tom Sawyer and the Rivers closing, because it's already been, September, October, November, December, January. 5 months is it's a decent amount of time heads up wise. Like when Great Movie Ride and Universe of Energy closed, that was only a month after D23 at the time. So if this is 6 months, that's a solid heads up.
Now, you said December 20th is when they submitted. Now, do they take an account for the holidays, like with Christmas and New Year's?
Or the official filing said that Florida had 30 days, so I don't know. I think it's January 20th, but let's say even if it's 5 weeks and it's January 27th or whatever, it's still soon. Like this, there's got to be a resolution here at some point. And it's funny because people were like, I hope the state of Florida doesn't approve this. The state of Florida does not care about Tom Sawyer Island and the Rivers of America. The state of Florida is probably happy about this because it's going to bring more tourism to the state, and it's going to make everyone more money, quite frankly. But yeah, I think that this is going to be another bombshell to drop. Like, we've had all of this news. We've had Haunted Mansion Bride, and then we just got all this summer stuff for Walt Disney World. And if this happens, well, that could lead to some sort of statement from Disney. Disney might even make a statement and saying, we're glad that the state has approved this. We're excited to get our transformation plans underway as we turbocharge our parks, So I think that that's the next ball to drop, if that's the right saying. But yeah, my thoughts are, be ready, because this could be happening very, very soon. If that permit's approved,
I honestly am definitely for it. As I said, I don't think there's a shadow of a doubt that they're not going to get this up and running, sooner than later. But it does make me wonder, because I think Disney requested for 90 more days to the time when they still needed to submit, but I think the state granted them 30. So hopefully, within those extra 30 days, they were able to get everything that they needed to.
They're going to make it happen. They're going to do whatever they got to do to get this done, because this is a huge moneymaker for them, and like you were saying, the state and everything.
The longer that Disney holds off on this, the longer, because like Big Thunder Mountain's already closed and the clock's ticking on that. So whatever ideas that Disney and Walt Disney Imagineering has in mind to, hey, like, we need to get this stuff done when Big Thunder Mountain's down to keep this infrastructure ready for 2028 and 2029. Well, that timer is already underway. So like, Disney wants this to happen, and I mean, obviously we don't know what happens behind the scenes, but I imagine when that initial request was denied, and not that it was anything major that was denied, that's a perfect example of social media, blowing things out of proportion. I've seen multiple people say, yeah, this is pretty standard, because the state knows exactly what needs to be done, where the company thinks they know what needs to be done. And then once the company knows exactly what needs to be done, they bring in those people to get it right the second time. Yeah. I think it's going to be approved because Disney's going to say, okay, we need to get this right so we can get this, so we can get this train going down the track. So yeah, I'm ready, and I'm kind of just buckling up for it. And if we get that date for Tom Sawyer Island and the Rivers of America, well, I'll be.
So you're anticipating the coming week?
I mean, we might not get anything from Disney officially within this week, but like the state of Florida approving the plan would indirectly say that this is happening, if that makes sense. Cool. Disney can drop a Parks blog article whenever they want to, and they'll probably do that in a sense to where they give certain people on media a heads up, and get everything out. They might even drop some new details here, so they might make it a part of a bigger thing in summer with the media event out here and try to start to get people excited for these future projects. So we'll see. There's again, I've mentioned it multiple times, but it's not just the domestic parks. It's not just Disneyverse, Epic Universe. It's Hong Kong, Shanghai, Paris, Tokyo, cruise line. It's all these international parks, Disneyland, right? Disney is a massive beast, and that's why I'm so grateful for what we're getting at Walt Disney World this summer, and we're getting all these shows and Test Track in this parade, because what we're getting right now on top of everything coming is incredible with all the other projects around the world as well. You know, it's a whole pie.
Right, 100%. Well said, Drew. It is always awesome having you on. We got to get you back on again for that Walt animatronic video.
Yeah. Hey, maybe if we get some of this news that we've been talking about soon, then we need to talk sooner than this gap since the last time I was on. It's been way too long.
Way too long. Absolutely. We'll get you on very, very soon. You can remind everybody where they can find you on social media, and I will be linking everything down below.
Yeah. So you guys can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter. There you go, George. Just for you. I'm gonna say that just for you every single time. Drew Disney Dude over there, and then Instagram, YouTube, Drew the Disney Dude. So if you guys are excited for what's to come and you want to see a first-hand experience, you know, as I'm on site, well, I'm your guy. I'm your redheaded man.
There he is. He's your guy. Actually, you can almost say you're that guy.
Oh my God, I'm really.
As in Monsters Inc. Or is that a reference to Monsters Inc.?
There we go. Mr. Italiano, where can we find you on social media?
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You can also find me on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base on Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There he is, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us to our 1 hour and 50-minute crew.
Yeah,
Thank you for watching.
I was just thinking about like Moana. I think we've been talking for longer than the length of Moana 2 and Moana. So yeah, if you guys want conversations that are Walt Disney Animation Studios and Pixar movie length, well, here we are.
We're doing it. You know, next time we'll shoot for Endgame, you know, like a 3-hour.
We'll shoot for James Cameron level of conversation.
Exactly. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. And until next time, see ya later.
Thank you for watching OG55. If you aren't already, consider becoming a member today.